Well, indeed. Thank you, John. A new report, meanwhile, says tensions are growing between Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and President Trump over the Iran war. President Trump, however, is dismissing those rumors.
What have you said to Prime Minister Netanyahu about Iran and how long to hold off on strikes?
He's fine. He'll do whatever I want him to do. He's a very good man. He'll do whatever I want him to do.
You're on the same page with him on Iran?
Yeah.
Okay, so just moments ago, CENTCOM releasing brand new video of Marines boarding an Iranian-flagged commercial tanker in the Gulf of Oman as part of a blockade. Take a look here. Pretty fascinating video. General Jack Keane, Fox News senior strategic analyst and chairman of the Institute for the Study of War, is joining us now. General Keane, welcome to you. Fascinating video. Tell us a little bit about what we're seeing there, as we have learned that the U.S. military said those American forces did board the vessel. They then released it after they went on board. They did a search, we are told, and then they directed the ship's crew to alter course. Can you tell us a little bit more about what went down there?
Well, we usually don't board a vehicle unless they don't abide by our instructions. If they continue to move in the direction they want to move, as opposed to halt or move to an area where we're sequestering the ships, then we board it. And usually it's going to be uncontested. We certainly, our troops who are doing it are armed. We don't expect to be in contact with the people on those ships. There's no Iranian gunmen on the ship, but we have to, as in all military situation, we got to be prepared for the unexpected. And what we did there is just take charge of that ship and direct them to where we want them to go as opposed to where they want to go. And this is the enforcement of the blockade, which has been enormously successful, as we've been reporting on now for some weeks.
This is from President Trump today, broadly speaking, on the Iran war, simply saying he is in no hurry. Listen.
We'd have to open the strait. That would open immediately. So we're going to give this one shot. I'm in no hurry. You never think, oh, the midterms, I'm in a hurry. I'm in no hurry.
What does that tell you, General?
Well, I think what the Iranians are attempting to achieve here, I mean, we're 6 weeks into a ceasefire that the original deadline was 2 weeks. And I think what the Iranians are trying to achieve here is drag these negotiations out as long as they possibly can, believing that there will be more political, economic pressure put on the president, not so much to make a deal that he doesn't want to make, but to get fed up with this thing and end it to where it is right now. That's kind of what the Iranians are doing here. And I think what he's trying to respond to them. Look, I don't feel any pressure. I'm not being persuaded by anybody's concern about political economic pressure. I'll take as long as it takes here to make a right deal. I do think we're reaching a point whether we really can get a deal or not. I mean, 6 weeks, we've had plenty of opportunity even before that to talk to most of these same people, and a deal has been quite elusive. In my judgment, I don't think they're ever going to put a deal on the table that'll be acceptable to our president, because he's not going to take a bad deal. And I think, in my judgment, it's time to return to full-out combat operations. Listen, we've been gathering information on the Iranians for 6 weeks, and we have increased our capability in the region militarily. The Israelis have full suite of munitions and weapon systems, and we are ready to go with much better information on targeting. The effects on the Iranians are going to be quite devastating. And all the hand-wringers out there who are worried about the Iranians firing that Gulf oil and continue to disrupt the Straits of Hormuz don't understand what the impact of that military operation will have on their capabilities. I'm not suggesting there wouldn't be challenges. I'm not suggesting there wouldn't be the unexpected. That's what war is always about. And how do you deal with the unexpected, and how do you have the will to proceed and get to your final objective? I think the objective from the beginning has always made sense, Sandra. Weaken this regime, take away all of their offensive capability. They're no longer a predator in the region. They don't have a ballistic missile program of any consequence, nor do they have a nuclear capability. They're not supporting their proxies. And the regime, when we're finished, is in such a weakened state, economically and militarily, that they're vulnerable to the Iranian people in terms of their resistance. And then the last gesture I would make to the people running the regime is I'd offer them a free ticket out of there. Any place they want to go, we'll take them and see if they take us up on that deal. If not, they want to stay there and face the Iranian people and the economic collapse that will be pending. That's certainly their choice. But we hold all the cards here, Sandra, and that's the reality of it.
Always appreciate your analysis, sir. General, thank you very much for joining us.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.